Hi, this is Julia Monte. Welcome to the Julia Monte channel. Today what I'd like to talk about is the correlation between creativity and rewards. So in other words, what is the reward for being creative, for taking all the time and putting in all the effort to produce something or to involve yourself in a creative project? Whether that might be writing a book, which is probably in our case, but it could be creating music, or any kind of creative outlet. Even creating, well, a meal I think has its own its own reward in the in the meal itself. But most of creativity we do, I think, without a reward, because the reward of creativity is the creative process itself, meaning that we don't need the actual product. So, for example, when I write a book, what I'm doing is going through this whole process, right, of creating characters and creating a story and putting in the time and the effort to make my to bring my characters to life and to build this world that doesn't exist into existence so that my readers will enjoy it. So the reward, like you would think, right, is the actual book itself. So at the end, I have my manuscript, and if it's published, I have the book, and it is extremely like joyous, right? It's to when you actually get your book in your hand and you're holding it, and it's like, wow, I have this product, right? So you figure, right, that is your reward. But it's not really. The reward really isn't this object. It's not this book that I'm holding in my hand, because that it's done, right? That's just a product that I'm either probably going to sell or whatever, put on my bookshelf. It's not the actual book that is the reward. The reward is the process of creativity, of going through and both the challenges and the joy of creating something. So the reward of creativity is the process of creativity. And I'll put a link below to another, although I don't know if YouTube actually likes to have links to other YouTubes, because it actually flagged one of my videos that I had put in a link, but I don't really think that's a problem, so I don't know, I'll try it again. But there's a link to Tibetan Buddhist monks, and what they do is they create these amazing mandalas with sand and just all kinds of colors, and they create these designs that are just painstakingly difficult to do, and a lot of work, right, as they are creating these little designs. And they do it all with sand and these little straws, and so I will go ahead and put the link on there. But when they're finished, and it takes them hours and hours and hours and hours to create this, they look at it, they admire it, and then they let the people that are there admire it, and then they sweep all the sand away. Now, why do they do that? It takes, all that time and all that creativity and all that effort to create this, and then they just sweep it away. And so what they say is that because of the impermanence of life, this just sort of represents that nothing is really permanent here on earth, and that, to attach yourself to something is, it just brings you pain, and it brings you suffering. So that's just a representation, though. Even though you took all that time, even though you created this, now they just they get rid of it. But I think it also shows artists, right? It shows us that that the joy, right, and the reward of creativity is in that creative thing that we're doing, the time that we spend doing it, and the enjoyment that we get out of creating something beautiful or something amazing or something interesting. There's also other rewards, right? There's other rewards, and that I think there's, what they're showing in a way is that it's sort of a spiritual reward. Anytime that, if you talk to artists, whether they're musicians or writers or painters or whatever, they'll tell you that it's almost like a trance, right? Time seems to stand still, or even like go in fast motion. Like it just you don't really notice time at all because you're so focused on the creation of what you're doing, which can be kind of meditative. And you're also making something out of nothing. Something didn't exist, but you created it on your own, and that is extremely rewarding, to know that you're capable of making something just out of your imagination, right? Your own mind. And then I think one of the other values and the the rewards is that how much you learn about yourself, because in any creative process, you have frustrations. You have to learn how to be patient. You have to learn that sometimes you do make mistakes, or what people call mistakes. I remember when my kids were little and I took them to an art class and they were supposed to draw an elephant or something, and one of my kids was like, oh my god, I did it wrong. And she said, there's no wrong in art, it's just different. And that's something that you learn too, right? I mean, yeah, you can get better, your skills can get better as an artist or as a writer, but that's one of the things you learn, right? That there's no perfection. It doesn't really matter how much you try, you're never going to get to perfect, which is another interesting lesson there. But it's also, there's no wrong or right, it's just creation, right? You're just creating something, and the reward is just that stuff that you're learning. You're learning about yourself. You're learning to be patient. You're learning that there is no perfection. You're learning multiple things. How do you react to things, to frustration, or how to become less frustrated, and how to become more patient. So all of that is useful. So just the reward of becoming more self-aware, I think, is something that is very valuable and rewarding. So it's not the object itself, and one of the other things is, does getting a reward for creativity actually impede creativity, or make it harder, or make it, does it get in the way of creativity? And so, I've read some things about it. Some people say yes, some people say no, and I can see both. So I can see that in a way it can get in the way, at least it can get in the way of the joy of creativity. So if you're all of a sudden you do get published, or it now becomes a job, and you're having to create something, and there's the pressure of creativity, then that can be difficult, right? So that can get in the way of creativity, because now all of a sudden it's a job. It's not like I get to explore whatever. And I had a little bit of that when I started to publish my books and get my books published, and publishers expected me to, of course, write in the same genre that I'm writing, right? Because now that I've had that success with that genre, they want you to stick with it. Like, okay, write another book like this. Well, I don't know if I could write another book like that. I don't know that I can still, that I even want to write in that same genre. But you don't have that freedom anymore, and so that can impact your creativity, because now it's not, I'm not allowed to just whatever comes to my mind. I really have to stick to a certain type of writing, and that can be, that can get in the way of creativity, and it definitely can get in the way of the joy of being creative. So it can impact you. But then there's also, writers that will write, hundreds of books, and they produce, I don't know how many per year, and it doesn't seem to, as a reader, I can't tell that it has impacted their creativity. So maybe not, right? So maybe just knowing that you have to produce a certain amount of books doesn't really impact creativity at all, and may not even impact their joy. I guess we would have to ask them, but I think it can go either way. I think it could. And I definitely think that there's a difference between motivation and creativity. So if I'm contracted to produce, let's say, 3 books a year, and I'm going to get paid for that, I have a motivation, right, to get those books written. I also have an obligation to my readers to get those books written, and I have, so it becomes different. It's motivating. I don't know that it's how that impacts creativity at all. You guys can actually maybe tell me what do you think? How do you feel about that? Do you think that being forced to be creative actually impacts creativity, or the expectation of creativity maybe impacts creativity? So yeah, let me know what you think. And I am going to go ahead and add a link to my blog below so that you can read a little bit more about this. And I did link a couple of different articles and things that people have written about rewards and creativity that you might be interested in. So I'll link that blog down there. And if you like this video, please go ahead and hit the like button and let me know anything else that you are interested in having me write about or talk about. And I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.